At the second coming, Christ becomes the Savior of the world for the first time. He is called the Savior of the world right now, but until he saves the world, he hasn't saved it yet. When he saves it, then he becomes the Savior. He has the standing or the title Savior of the world already, which is a little bit like marriage. When the groom stands before the minister and he says, "I do," and the minister says, "You are now husband and wife, you can kiss the bride," the man is considered the husband, but he's not really the husband until later on that night when the marriage is consummated in bed. And the same thing is true with Christ. When he consummates the marriage, that's when he becomes the husband for real, in fact, rather than just in title. Likewise, at the second coming, that's when Christ defeats the Antichrist. Actually, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 7 and 8 speaks of him destroying the Antichrist, which is a little bit stronger than the word defeating the Antichrist. Now, just what is so important about the Antichrist, who is also called the beast, king of the north, Gog, ruler of Magog, the little horn, the son of destruction, the man of sin. What is so important about this man of sin, this destroyer, that Christ has to come personally and defeat him, destroy him? Well, the man of sin, who is also called the son of destruction, which means the destroyer, in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3, what he does, he's also called the beast. And in Revelation, the beast, we read, the beast will make war against the saints, which means the Christians, which means the countries predominantly Christian or historically Christian. Even though right now Europe is going through apostasy, it is the target of the Antichrist, of the beast. Russia will invade Western Europe, and that will fulfill Revelation 13:7, where it says the beast will make war against the Christians, and he will overcome them, and he will conquer Western Europe. And of course, America is married to Europe through NATO, so Russia will bomb America at that time. And that is the time when all the Christians that are killed in the big cities, when they get caught up to heaven, that's the rapture. That's the rapture. And also the 3 countries in Europe that get bombed, the Christians that get killed there, they go up in the rapture. So it'll be America and Europe, and also Japan. Our naval base in Okinawa will get bombed. So the Christians that get killed there, they go up in the rapture. So the rapture will extend from America to Japan, which will fulfill Matthew 24, verse 30 and 31, where it says, it will extend from horizon to horizon, from one end of the horizon to the other end. And if you stand if you're in Israel, America is to the far west, and Japan is to the far east. And so those two opposite poles, those two opposite horizons are the horizons in Matthew 24:30 through 31. Now, getting back to the issue at hand about the Antichrist and why Christ has to come personally to destroy him. Christ did not come to destroy Hitler. He raised up America and also Russia, of all countries, to defeat Hitler. But the Antichrist, Christ allows the Antichrist to take over the world so that there is no country to raise up, so that Christ has to come himself. Now the Antichrist, the man of sin, will out-slaughter Hitler and Stalin and Mao put together. Hitler killed, let's say, 20 million. Stalin, let's say, 40 million. Well, between the two of them, there was 60 million. And Mao, they say, he killed like 60 million. Or he starved them or whatever. And so there's 120 million there. Now, Gorbachev, the Antichrist, even though he's old, it's old Gorbachev. He's the Antichrist. He will, by bombing the cities of America, he can kill, let's say, 150 million. So he's outdoing the three men that I just spoke of, the three monsters that I just spoke of. But this man will be the most evil man in history as far as the number of people that get killed because of him. So only when Christ takes out this monster can he properly be called the Savior of the world. And the world will be grateful to him for saving it, saving them, saving mankind from Gorbachev. And so that is why in Zechariah 14, verse 9, it says that in that day there will be one Lord, there will be one name, and it's talking about universally, talking about around the world. The whole world will convert to Christianity because they will know that Christ has saved them. And it's a Christian God that has saved them. And so there will be this global conversion. And so how glorious is that? Until that victory, Christ will be like David before defeating Goliath. But once Christ does defeat Gorbachev, he will be like David after defeating Goliath. Now, something interesting is the fact that the name Goliath and the name Gorbachev, both, they start off with the same two letters, G-O. And Christ at the second coming will be a little bit like David the shepherd boy with the slingshot, because Christ he won't use conventional weapons. There'll be no tanks, there'll be no jets, there'll be no missiles that he will use. And so in that sense, he'll be like David, because David did not use, he did not have a sword of his own. He did use a sword, a Goliath sword, later on, but he defeated Goliath without a sword and without armor, without a shield, without anything. And all Christ will have is the light that he gives off. And it'll be like Acts 9, verse 3, all over again. Now, Gabriel, the angel, told Joseph, the future husband of Mary, that his wife was going to give birth to the Messiah, who would, quote, save his people from their sins. He will be called Jesus because he will save his people from their sins. Jesus means Messiah, or God is Messiah. Anyway, now that was 2,000 years ago that Gabriel pronounced that prophecy. But it will only be fulfilled when Christ comes and saves Israel from total destruction, certain annihilation. And so that prophecy will finally be fulfilled 2,000 years late, or after 2,000 years. It's not late, but anyway. Part 2. What will the second coming be like? It will be like Christ appearing to Saul of Tarsus, Acts 9, verse 3. Saul was waging war against the Jews, a particular group of Jews. Likewise, the Russian soldiers invading Israel will be waging war against the Jews, against Israel. Saul turned 180 degrees and became Christ's own soldier. Likewise, the Russians, a certain portion of them, will switch over to Christ's side, and they'll become his soldiers. Saul saw the light of Christ, divine light, and the soldiers will see divine light. Zechariah 14:7 says that at the second coming there will be light at night. Verse 7. Now Ezekiel 38 and 39 leaves out this part about the Russian soldiers switching over to Christ's side, except that it does mention mutiny in the ranks. That's verse 21, 38:21. And so that would be talking about the soldiers that are going over to Christ's side, mutinying against the loyalists that are loyal to Gorbachev, the ruler of Russia, the Antichrist. See, right now he's pretending to not be in power, but after he bombs America, the charade will be over. He'll come out from the shadows. He'll take over the country again. See, right now Putin is in charge, but Putin is just a puppet. So what does Christ do with the soldiers that go over to his side? He sends them back home to Russia. And just like he sent Saul, who became Paul the Apostle, he sent Paul to the world. Well, he'll send the Russians back to Russia. And there they will proclaim God's glory, Christ's glory, the glory of the second coming. That's Isaiah 66, verse 19. And the earlier part of the chapter does talk about the invasion of Israel, which is the context. And let me add that Christ appearing to Saul is mentioned 3 times in the book of Acts. It's Acts 9, verse 3, Acts 22, verse 6 through 10, Acts 26, 10 through 14. Why is Christ appearing to Saul mentioned 3 times? Well, when something is mentioned 3 times in the Bible, it means it's very, very important. 3 times means emphasis. It's done for emphasis. Like in the book of in the law of Moses, it's mentioned 3 times. You do not boil a kid in a kid goat in its mother's milk. Now the point is that milk is associated with the breast, and the breasts are part of the reproductive system. And so the idea is the reproductive system should not be used for something that is the opposite of reproduction. Now, cooking the goat is an extension of killing the goat. And so the idea is you do not use the reproductive system for killing or cooking. And so those three passages are anti-abortion passages. Now the Jews, being Jews, they completely mishandle that passage, and they make a law that you cannot eat cheese with meat, or milk with meat, which is totally not the point of those three passages. Now getting back to the second coming. Now let me emphasize, let me repeat, anything worth saying once is worth saying twice. I said already that Zechariah 14:9 does say that in that day there'll be one Lord and his name will be one. It's talking about global conversion, and let me see, what's the point? Well, oh dear. Well, global conversion means like 5.5 billion people get converted. The church has converted. Right now, there's 2 billion people that are Christians in the world after 2,000 years. But Christ, in a single day, he will complete the Great Commission. Now, isn't that glorious? Now, this is a P.S. P.S. It says the day of the second coming will be like the day that God fought for Israel. That's Zechariah 14, verse 3. So what is it talking about? What day is it talking about? Well, we know there will be light at night. Now that's a big clue right there. Now there was a day in which Joshua commanded the sun to stand still so that the Israelites could continue chasing the enemy. There were these tribes that were attacking Israel's ally, which was Gibeon, the Gibeonites. And they were attacking the Gibeon because Gibeon had become allies with Israel. And so Israel went after the enemy, and as night fell, they weren't done defeating the enemy, so Joshua commanded the sun to stand still so there would be light at night. Now that is the battle. That's in Joshua 10. It says there explicitly that is a day in which God fought for Israel. Now the words God fought are the words we're looking for, because that's what it says in Zechariah 14 verse 3. Actually, it's talking about fighting for Israel. So it's not God fought, it's God fought for Israel. Those are the words we're looking for. Now I want to emphasize that the sun did not stand still on the day or night that Joshua commanded the sun to stand still, but what God did was a miracle where God gave off light, the equivalent of the sun shining at midnight. And so Christ will do the same sort of thing at the second coming. He will make, there will be light at night. There will be light stronger than the sun. I think Isaiah says something about that. Anyway, that's it. You cannot go by Revelation 19 as far as getting a picture of the second coming. The second coming is described well enough in Zechariah 14, and in Ezekiel 38 and 39, where it says God reveals himself. Now that word is the same word that's used in describing the second coming, the revelation of Christ, the revealing of Christ. And when Ezekiel 38 and 39 says God will reveal himself, that's talking about the second coming. Try to get that into your heads. Now I will make a written transcript of this video so that you can make a paper copy, so that in the event of EMP, which comes with the nuclear attack, you'll still have the information, the data. By the way, I'm expecting the attack in early October, and if it isn't early October, at the time of the end of the Feast of Tabernacles, it will still happen. Russia will still bomb America, and the tribulation period, which is the time in which Russia rules the world, will still be 5 months. 5 months is based on Revelation 9, verse 5 and 10. It doesn't say anything about that being the length of the trib, but we can figure it out by the circumstances. It is talking about a time of occupation by Russian tanks. The tanks are the locusts of iron. And it says it's a time not of killing, not of dying. And that does fit a time of occupation after the war. The war is a time of the killing, and the occupation is a time of not killing. Now it says that in that passage. And so it does point to occupation, and that is talking about the tribulation period. As far as Europe is concerned, Europe will be occupied, but America will not be occupied. And then Christ will come at the end, which would be at the end of February, which is right in time for Purim, which is a celebration of the death of Haman, which was an early type of the Antichrist. And so it would be appropriate for Gorbachev to die at the end of February so that he can be a fulfillment of Haman. Haman. Okay, that's it.